Nowadays, the biggest problem faced by the free software world isn't the usage of free software licenses. In fact, they're actually fairly common. The biggest problem nowadays is the enforcement of the license terms and the correct usage of those licenses. Now, I know just saying this name is going to be enough to annoy some people and start a fight in the comment section, but recently Trump opened up his new social media platform for testing titled Truth Social. And this platform is in a bit of hot water, but there's a reason why we're talking about it on this channel and not on some random politics channel. It's not because of the person running it or the platform itself, it's because of the codebase. So much like with Gab, Truth Social is based on Mastodon. Now, how do we know it's based on Mastodon? Well, we can look at it, and this is very clearly Mastodon with a slightly different theme. This is based on the Mastodon Lite theme though, and has a different logo. And if that's not enough, if we look at how the account customization screen looks, this is literally just Mastodon. And if even that's not enough, well, it turns out in the body tag, there are references to the Mastodon Lite theme. Now, Mastodon isn't just GPL software, it is AGPL v3, the Affero GPL. Now, it's not a problem that Truth Social is built on top of Mastodon. You can go and fork Mastodon and modify it as much as you want. This is the great thing about using GPL. The problem is that they're not actually following the license terms. So what happened is a few days ago, the test site was opened up and users were able to use it fairly briefly. They could make accounts, send posts, send PMs, do all the normal stuff you can do on a Mastodon instance. But there's one problem. These early users did not receive access to the source code, did not have any means to acquire the source code, and they have been ignoring public requests to actually release the source code. Now, some were saying that it was pulled down due to this violation, but what's far more likely is there was the heavy influx of trolls because the developers didn't secure any account names, and as you might expect, you know, the Trump accounts and all of the famous Republican accounts were taken basically instantly and used to do all manner of trolling. What's far more likely for why it was taken down is the test wasn't supposed to go up then, it actually went up earlier than expected. So what's the big deal then? Well, AGPL is a very special version of GPL. Early versions of the GPL were created prior to widespread internet access, and even GPL v3 doesn't really deal with this issue, and that is software running on a remote server that is being displayed on yours or being interacted with by your system. Basically backend code for something like a website or anything that you would fairly commonly remote into. So AGPL is identical to regular versions of GPL, except it has one extra clause. That clause is the Remote Network Interaction Clause, clause number 13. Notwithstanding any other provisions of this license, if you modify the program, your modified version must prominently offer all users interacting with it remotely through a computer network, if your version supports such interaction, an opportunity to receive the corresponding source of your version by providing access to the corresponding source from a network server at no charge through some standard or customary means of facilitating copying of software. What this basically means is if you go and modify the backend software, in this case being Mastodon, you must make the source code for your modified version public to the users of that software. And like other GPL style licenses, when you make modifications to existing GPL code, your modifications will also become GPL code. Now, I would be able to give the developers the benefit of the doubt because this is a new product and it was released earlier than expected and the dev team is a new dev team, but that was until I read their terms of service, where they clearly have no indication of actually following the license properly. So, there is a section in here. This is a section on things that are prohibited to do. So, as a user of the site, you are prohibited from deciphering, decompiling, or disassembling or reverse engineering any of the software comprising or in any way making up a part of the site. along with saying you agree not to copy or adapt the site's software, including but not limited to Flash, PHP, HTML, JavaScript, or other code. Now, I'm pretty sure they just copied this from some, generic legal jargon, because I really doubt that you have Flash support in 2021. Maybe you do. Pretty sure Mastodon doesn't support that, but maybe they went and coded Flash support for some reason. I doubt it, though. And the final nail in the coffin is this section right here about intellectual property rights. Unless otherwise indicated, the site is our proprietary property, and all source code, databases, functionality, software, website designs, audio, video, text, photographs, and graphics on the site, collectively the content, and the trademarks, service marks, and logos therein the marks, are owned or controlled by us or licensed to us, and are protected by copyright and trademark laws and various other blah 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 legal jargon. Now, this, yes, it would be licensed to you, but it is only licensed to you assuming that you actually follow the terms of the license. And if you do not release that source code under AGPL, then it's not licensed to you. That's basically how that goes. Now, while I say they have to release the source code, it's more like they have to provide a means to acquire the source code. So, Gab in the past used to have all of their source code available on GitHub. You can go and download it, audit it, do anything you want to it. It's just Mastodon. You could even go and run it yourself. But then they decided to go and pull down that Git repo, and what you have to do now is send them an email, and then they will send you a link to go and download it. The problem is that nobody responds to that email, and it's very likely just being sent to spam. That might seem like it's violating the terms of the license, but there's nothing in the license that says that anybody has to respond to the email. You just have to provide a standard means to acquire the source code. Other companies will require you to call a phone number that connects to an answering machine that nobody ever checks, or they might require you to actually go to their headquarters, schedule an appointment, and to be honest, for most people, that's way too much effort, and nobody's actually going to go and do that. Basically, the license requires you to at least pretend to comply, but even in that very, very basic step, they're not even managing to do that. So now that this license violation has occurred, what is actually going to happen? Well, Truth Social has until 30 days after the violation occurred to produce a means to actually acquire the source code and then provide that to their users. As I said, it doesn't have to actually give you the source code, but they need to at least pretend to comply. If they do not comply, which judging by what Truth Social has in their TOS, they're probably not going to, all of their rights and permissions to use the source code will be terminated, and then Mastodon or an organization on behalf of Mastodon may sue the Trump Media and Technology Group for damages relating to the violation of the license. Now, I can certainly say that, but what does it actually mean in practice? Because anybody that knows anything about this world probably understands that the only time a license violation actually gets dealt with is when it's between, a Microsoft and an Apple, or a Google and a Facebook, where you have these massive, massive companies that have incredible legal budgets to just dump on anything like this. What it means in practice, I can't really say, because the Trump organization obviously has a lot of money behind it and are probably going to fight this tooth and nail until the absolute bitter end. And even though the Mastodon developer is being supported by the Software Freedom Conservancy, and they are willing to actually step up and help the developer actually fight this case, even them, I really doubt they have the resources to actually properly chase this. The Mastodon founder is going to be seeking legal counsel on this matter, so really only time will tell what the result is actually going to be. I will likely be following up this story if anything of interest actually happens, but I'm not hopeful that anything positive in the way of software freedom actually occurs. If a case does go forward, I certainly do hope it is successful, but I'm sure we've all seen cases where we clearly see one side is obviously in the right, but then because of legal jargon and all of the nonsense that happens in the legal system, there is some random loophole that can be found to avoid there actually, being a problem. I will leave a link to the Software Freedom Conservancy article in the description down below, which I really highly recommend reading because it goes over why a GPL was created, the problem it's going to address, how it was supposed to address it, and why it was chosen for use with Mastodon. It's a really good article and I really recommend reading it. And if you like this video and you want to support the channel and become one of these amazing people over here, please go check out my Patreon, subscribe, start on LiberaPay, linked in the description down below. I've got a podcast called Tech Over Tea, available basically anywhere. I've got a gaming channel called Brody Robinson Plays, where I live stream twice a week, upload about 5 or so YouTube shorts, and this channel is also available over on Odyssey. That's going to be it for me, and I don't know what that was. I'm out.